Hey everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu. Hope you're doing well. So should you compete or should you not compete? You know, that's a pretty common question that I get, especially from viewers like you to our YouTube channel. By the way, thank you for watching the channel. I really appreciate you guys. Just trying to figure out where the sun's coming from. But to compete or not to compete, that's I can't say it's a simple question, because do you need it to progress in Jiu-Jitsu? The answer is really no. Now, do you need it to rank up in Jiu-Jitsu? That's really up to your professor. Now, some instructors require it, some don't. And it's even really funny to where they have criteria for who gets promoted based on if they compete or not. For instance, it's not uncommon for schools to sandbag members who compete, right? Meaning, if they weren't competitors, they would have gotten their blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt sooner than if they compete. You know, you have your competition team, and that team is responsible for bringing results into the studio, right? And sorry, I'm just trying to figure this thing out. And you want your team members to win. So what you'll do is, maybe if they weren't competitors, you might give them the purple belt. However, while they're competing, they're not necessarily taking gold all the time. Or maybe they are taking gold at blue belt. But what the instructor does is keeps them competing to keep winning gold at blue belt. Now, I think if you win gold a few times, then you're not eligible to keep competing at that level. They make you move up. So that's a good thing. But is it common all the time? I'm really not sure anymore, because I really don't follow that. Now, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu does have people that compete. However, it's not a criteria for belt promotion. What I usually use it is as a tool for you to conquer any kind of issues that you may have personally. Right? If you're afraid to take tests, maybe you're not afraid, but you don't do well in tests, or if you don't do well with being put on the spot, right? You get anxiety, that type of stuff, then a competition would actually be very helpful for you. And in that case, I tell you, yeah, I think you should compete, just to kind of be able to get the butterflies out. Some people do that automatically, some people don't. And I actually have people that thrive on competition. I have other people that hate competition. The ones that thrive, yeah, go ahead and compete. I mean, you thrive on it, why not, right? And the ones that hate it, guess what? I think you should compete at least once. You know, I have some buddies in Hawaii, the Onzuka twins. They run O2 Academy, House and Gracie School in Hawaii. In fact, I think they're the oldest House and Gracie school in the world. Anyway, one thing that they told me was they tell their students to compete twice. Once, just to compete, to see what it's like, but don't expect any kind of significant results. If you get them, great, but if you don't, that's not a big deal. Then they say to compete the second time is really to compete to win. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, it's not something that I necessarily preach or practice on my end, but I can see why they do that, and I see the value in it. And, you know, they haven't been, teaching Jiu-Jitsu for 30 years for nothing, right? These are guys that I started with way back when. And I think it's a good thing. And they have a number of people that compete. They're not a huge competition-based school, but they do have a good number of compete. And being that they're in Hawaii, they travel. So it's not uncommon for them to be in Vegas or come to California. When I lived in California, they'd bring a small team, and, they'd all be training at my house to get ready for the Pans, for instance, because I lived right by where the Pans were being held in Irvine, California. Now, as far as our team goes, like I said, it's not usually a big deal, but I usually want to have instructors compete. And the reason is because instructors are different from regular students. They are students, right? And instructors are students of mine, right? I teach them and run through everything with them. But their role is also to instruct others. And you not only have to instruct, you have to inspire. And if somebody's saying, hey, coach, I'm looking to compete, what do you think? Well, if the coach has never competed, then there's really no basis for their answer. However, if they have competed, then they can say, yes, this was my experience. This is how it helped me. This is how it hurt me. This is what I had to deal with. So yes, then the instructor having competed, which I usually want to happen, the instructor having competed can now go and can guide their students in the endeavor of competing, right? And you know, there are those that want to compete because they want to they just want to compete. They're like racehorses, always got to race, right? I get it, right? And that's just what they need to do. And you have other people who are just coming to jiu-jitsu to make themselves better, make themselves be the best person that they can be. Give me 1 second. And, well, that's better. And by competing, it helps them to be able to surmount figurative mountains and climb various ladders and overcome hurdles and objections and all that kind of stuff in their lives. So in that case, yes, I think you should do it. But a master that I know, Fabio Santos, he made it a point that every one of his students need to compete. Now, I don't know how many times he would require it, but I know he would require it. So if you want to get promoted, you need to compete. And now Fabio's an old school jiu-jitsu instructor. Old school meaning he grew up with, not with MMA, but with Vale Tudo, and as he called it, porrada, right? And porrada is the one where you got to fight. In fact, I think Henner Gracie, through the Gracie Academy, just released some video that showed old footage of of Fabio Santos in doing Gracie challenge matches. I think he did 2 with one particular individual in that particular video. And he's done tons of them, as has Dave Kama and all that kind of, the old school guys. They tend to do a lot of them because that was how the Gracie family would promote their art, by saying, hey, look, this is just a student, right? And the student can do all this. So imagine what you can learn, right? Because a lot of people say, well, you're Gracie's, which is why you can do it. And they're like, no, and that's not true. If you're a student, then you learn all this stuff too. And that was good marketing by Jorge and Gracie, and the Gracie family in general, way back when. So if your question is, should you compete? I say try it at least. Don't shy away from it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just you just sparring with somebody who you don't know. Now sometimes you could know them. If you get around, then you will know them. But in general, you're going to be sparring against somebody you don't know, and that's a good thing because they bring in the unpredictability of people that you're not used to training with on a day in and day out basis. And what it also does is it helps to kind of show any holes that you might have in your training, because schools do things differently. They implement positions and submissions different than another school. Even though it technically is the same submission, it's different in the way it's the implementation of it and the pressure and all that kind of stuff. So competing will help you to see what's out there and enable you to be able to learn how to adapt, which that's what jiu-jitsu is about. It's about adapting to your environment, adapting to your opponent. And self-defense in general is just learning what's around you, right? So, you see where I am here. I'm in front of the Apple store, and you see all these cars here, right? Now imagine if you were to get in a fight right here on this sidewalk. You'd have to see that. I don't know if you can see that there's a bench, a concrete bench right here, right? And there's trees, and being able to avoid them is what self-defense is all about, while you're being able to take your opponent down to where you need to and control your opponent. Now, a competition will help you to get some of those situations to where you're not comfortable, and it helps you to be in an environment where you can do well, you can thrive when the stress is high. And that, to me, is something that can only make you better. So, in other words, go and compete. You don't need to do it all the time, but at least try it once or twice and see how it is, and see how it works for you. And if it helps you, keep doing it, right? Why not, right? Anyway, that's all I got for you. Take care, happy training. Oh, by the way, thank you for subscribing, and come visit us at KAMAJujitsuOnline.com, or come see us at our studios, one in Flower Mound, Kama Jiu-Jitsu Flower Mound, as well as Kama Jiu-Jitsu Irvine, California. Anyway, we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Happy training. Bye now.